Everyone, my name is Holly Jo and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you two more ghost stories, not four, two more ghost stories that happened to me, and yeah, that's pretty much it. In case you're wondering, I'm actually filming in my bedroom today, which is why my background looks different, and you can see my awesome All Around High School Host Club poster over here. Reason why I'm filming in a new location today, even though it's going to sound really crazy, is just that normally my filming location is actually in my closet, and every single time I tell ghost stories and like post them, or just tell anybody them really, weird things start to happen, and I think it's just because they don't want me talking about them. Maybe, I don't know. But just in case weird things started to happen, I needed to have an escape route, and it's easier to leave my room than it is to leave my closet. So yeah. So the first story that I'm going to tell you today is about my brother's past life. In case you don't know, I have three brothers. I have one older brother and then two younger brothers. And the brother that I'm going to be talking about today is my youngest brother. His name is Alex. And he just recently turned 13, so happy birthday to him. And when this story happened, he was probably like 8 years old or something like that. He was still pretty little. And what happened was we were all on this family vacation, so we were driving. But yeah, so we were all in the car together, and we drove past this farm, and there was like a guy out on his tractor. And out of nowhere, literally nowhere. Sorry if you can hear the cars outside. It's really, really hot in my room, so I have my window open. Yeah, out of nowhere, he goes, "Hey Mom, do you remember when I lived on a farm and I had different parents and I was riding on a tractor and I fell off and I died?" And my mom was just like, she was just so weirded out because she knew that he wasn't watching any sort of TV that would like talk about that kind of stuff, and she just thought it was like the weirdest thing ever. And I'm pretty sure that he was talking about his past life. Like, I knew it wasn't a dream. Like, it was, because he was 100% serious that it was him and that had happened to him. And it just made sense because he had this he'd had this obsession with farms and tractors and things like that, because that was what his past life did, was he was a farmer. And it was just like the weirdest thing that he would say that. Like, he was 8. Like, he was young. He was very little. He might actually even could have been younger than that. I don't exactly remember. But yeah, he was definitely like very small. Definitely didn't know anything. He hadn't been exposed to anybody dying or anything like that. And I didn't talk to him about ghost stories or, you know, the weird stuff that I liked. So it was just kind of weird that he would just randomly say that out of nowhere. And it was so matter of fact that it just caught everybody off guard, and everyone was just like, "What?" Yeah, I was asleep, so my mom actually ended up telling me this story like a few weeks later, because she thought it was just so weird and she didn't really want to tell me like right away. But I don't know, I'm one of those people. I definitely think that past lives are a thing. You might have heard that story in the news about that little boy who he found the killer of his past life. Like, this boy walked up and was like, "You murdered me and this is where you hid the body," and all this other stuff. And the guy actually confessed that he did murder this person like 20 years ago or something ridiculous like that. And nobody knew how this like little kid, this little like 10-year-old, 6-year-old boy, whatever, knew that this guy had murdered somebody. So I 100% believe in that stuff. I don't know if you guys do, but I definitely felt like this was my little brother talking about his past life, and he just didn't really realize it. So the next story that I'm going to tell you guys is the story of all the weird things that happened to me at my last job. My last job, if you guys didn't watch any of my previous videos, I worked at a Dunkin' Donuts, and while I worked there, a lot of really weird things happened. And we all joked because our store was actually an add-on of an old building that used to be there. There used to be a Hostess bakery shop in that location. And then when it went out of business, Duncan took over and they just added on to the building. They didn't like demolish it or anything, they just added on. And we always joked that there was a hostess ghost that was still in the building because all of this weird paranormal stuff would happen there, but we didn't really take it seriously. Like, nobody really thought that there was a hostess ghost, at least to my knowledge. Nobody actually thought that. But I kind of did a little bit, just because a lot of weird things happened to me when I worked there. And it wasn't actually until right before I was about to quit that a lot of weird shit started happening. So when I first started working there, it was fine, like nothing really weird happened. But things would fall off of shelves a lot, and I didn't really think it was that weird at first, because the shelves that were in the back that held up a lot of our stuff were kind of rickety, and they were slanted because there was so much stuff piled on them. And then on top of that, people would just throw crap up there, not really caring if it was actually gonna stay up there or not, and then it would just randomly fall off. But one day I was sitting there, I was doing the dishes in the back, getting ready to leave for my shift, and everything was totally fine. I had probably been back there for about 20 minutes and nobody had come back there at all. So it was just me, and everything on the shelves was like fine, nothing had moved around. And I was leaning over, cleaning something, and out of nowhere, everything on the top shelf, that was like above, like the section that was above my head, slid down, it fell off, and it hit me really hard in the head, to the point where like I had to like sit down because I thought I was gonna get like a concussion, because it just fell out of nowhere. And I'm sitting there going, well, what the hell, why did all that stuff just fall on me? And somebody came back, and I was sitting back there like holding my head like this, and they're like, oh, what's the matter? And I'm like, all that shit on the top shelf just like fell and hit me in the head, and it was so random, like I didn't even touch anything up there. And they kind of joked, and they're like, oh, it must have been the hostess ghost. And at that point I had heard, that everybody thought that there was a hostess ghost or whatever. So, I was like, oh, maybe he just doesn't like me, just kind of playing along with it. But let me tell you, that was the last day I did the dishes back there, because I'm like, I don't want anything else falling on my head. And things like that actually happened a lot of the time. Anytime I went back there, things would fall off the shelf, and I didn't understand why, because I'm like, everything is fine, like nobody's touching anything, so why does it only fall when I'm the one back there? It was just the weirdest thing. And then one day, I was in the store with another worker. His name is Tyson. And we were sitting there working, and we were closing the store. So it was about 9 o'clock, because that was when our store had closed, and we were scheduled to be there until like 9:30. So the store had closed, doors were locked, everything, whatever. And he was in the back doing the dishes, and I was up at the front cleaning everything, making sure that the front of the store was all clean, like tables were wiped off, the floor was mopped, coffee pots were turned off, things like that. And all of a sudden, I heard a voice. Now, prior to me hearing the voice and prior to the store closing, the store manager, the assistant manager, she had called and was like, oh, hey, I'm going to be coming in later tonight because I have to finish some paperwork. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Thinking she'd probably just come in through the back door because it's easier. Well, it was 9 o'clock and the store had closed, and she still hadn't come yet. So when I heard her voice, I had assumed that she'd come back. And so I heard her. I didn't hear exactly what she was saying, but I could hear the sound of her voice, like her intonation and the tone, everything. It was her. I just didn't hear exactly what they were saying. And she was talking with Tyson. And so I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But I didn't really think to stop working or anything like that. I figured she would come up to the front and check to see that he's not the only one here. So I just kept cleaning. I wasn't talking to myself or anything like that. I was just quietly, getting all my shit together so that I could get him out of the store, because I didn't want either of us to stay past 9:30, but he was a minor, so I really didn't want him to stay past 9:30 because he had to go home. So I just did all my stuff up there, and then I came to the back. And when I went into the back, there was nobody back there but him. And right as I was about to ask if Rachel, who was the assistant manager, had come back, he's like, "Oh, wasn't Rachel with you?" And at that moment, I just, like, turned and, like, looked at him, like, I kind of did one of these. He was, like, standing here, and I'm facing this way, because I'm, like, looking around, and I'm just like, "No." And he's like, "But I heard you talking to her." And I'm like, "I heard you talking to her, but I never saw her." And Tyson knew that I liked scary ghost stories and things like that. He's like, "Holly, I swear to God, if you are pulling a prank on me, this is not funny." He's like, "I'm scared." And I was like, "I'm scared too. I don't know what's going on." I was like, "You were talking to Rachel. I heard her voice. I heard you talk back to her." And he's like, "No, I heard you talking to her." And I'm like, "Tyson, this is not funny." And he's like, "No, Holly, this isn't funny. Stop it." Like, we were both fully convinced that we were playing a prank on each other. And neither of us were. And it was just like the weirdest thing, because we didn't have any explanation as to why we both heard Rachel's voice, but she never came in. And I had texted her, and I was like, "Did you by chance at all come into the store and, you know, like, just a few minutes ago, and we just didn't see you, and you were, like, maybe talking to yourself or something?" And she's like, "No, I've been home all night." And so I told her what happened, that we had heard her voice talking to... I had heard her voice talking to Tyson, and Tyson heard her talking to me. And it was just, like, the weirdest damn thing ever. And it just reminded me of the stuff that would happen at my house, where, like, the ghosts would mimic my voice talking to other people. Or, the ghost would mimic, like, my dad or my mom calling for me. Things like that. And it was just really weird, and it made me wonder if maybe I'm the one who's haunted and not the store or not my house, because these things tend to happen, like, everywhere I go. And it's just, it's kind of weird, and I don't really have an explanation for it. So yeah, those are my 2 ghost stories today. I hope you guys enjoyed them. I know I enjoyed telling you guys my stories. It's always fun to tell you guys my stories. Plus, you guys actually leave comments on my videos when I tell you ghost stories, so I really would like to keep doing that. But that is the end of my video for today. So if you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what your favorite story was, or what your favorite part was, or if anything creepy has ever happened to you. I would love to hear your stories as well. I hope you guys are all having an excellent day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.